who were the most powerful Grand Viziers in ancient Egypt? Yeah, we're back. We just got through doing the fall the ancient Ethiopians of the ancient Kushite Empire. Oh, I'm sorry, the wonderful Ethiopians of the ancient of the Kushite Empire. We did a great session on that. Shout out to the fam. Much love to you guys. And the people have been asking questions. We did a discussion on Imhotep. We did that, the masters of Imhotep. So now the question is, it kind of sparked my curiosity as to who were the most powerful grand viziers in ancient Egypt. After doing my research, I have my five. I have my five. So these guys were great and they were awesome. Let's get to it. So the essential question is, who were the grand viziers or the grand architects of ancient Egypt? Remember, this spanned between 4 to 5,000 years, and it's kind of hard to narrow it down. So, but had to do it, right? So these guys weren't just dealing with the Temple of Karnak or the Ibit Waset, they that dedicated to the Neteru Amun, which was one of the most powerful religious institutions in ancient Egypt. Now, if you hear sound effects, if you hear cooking in the background, Prince Joshua is getting down to get down, so we getting hungry around here. But anyway, so they were individuals who served in roles connected to it and held remarkable influence, not just in the temple compound, the temple location, but the neighborhoods and areas around it, right? So the management fell to a variety of high-ranking officials, particularly the high priest of Amun, who functioned as temple chief overseers. So they had a lot of sway. They had a lot of influence in that situation. They had it. Okay. So the priests dealt with religious duties, they dealt with rituals, construction oversight, economic management. They did a lot. They weren't just people that went around quoting sacred texts. They did logistical work, they did mathematical work, scientific and medicinal work. They did these things, and they were part of society. They went to the school. We talked about the processes, and they went to those schools to learn, but they went among the people, and they were valuable to the people, right? And so, they had religious duties and dealing with economics. Economically, the priests were responsible not just at Karnak, but the other temples, by the way. The immense wealth and resources, including large estates, farmlands, and production facilities throughout Egypt. Get this, y'all. Check this out. Check this out. They were saying that they facilitate, um, generational wealth. They dealt with the temples where grains and income funded these events. But get this, y'all. I read in this book. Let me get this. In this book, it's called Ancient Records of Egypt, Volume 1. It deals with court cases in Egypt, and it dealt with deeds and laws that that was in place. And the priests wrote them down, and the scribes wrote them down. Pretty good book. Interesting, right? Let's get back to it. Okay. Now, so the vizier, the priest, the viziers were the liaison between the pharaoh, the people, and the temple. But we get into that in a second, right? Just recap real quick. Their training, they received early training from temple priests who had expertise in subjects like astronomy, mathematics, and medicine. Priest scholars were trained in sacred texts, rituals, and healing practices that combine spiritual elements and uh, practical treatments, right? So it wasn't just it wasn't just a religious thing. It was a practical thing. It was work that they had to do. There was work that they strived in. And remember, the Grand Viziers were raised among these priests here. They didn't pull a random individual on the outside and planted them in and say, hey, you're going to be the grand architect, the grand master, right? Now, they did the chess schools. They would have attended a chess or scribe school where scribes learned hieroglyphic writing, accounting, mathematics, and administrative skills. They weren't dummies. These black individuals, men and women, weren't stupid. They did the work. They wrote the Meta-Nature. They wrote the Matic and many other languages and broke this down and give you what we see all over Kemet and Nubia. It wasn't just a Kemetic thing. This is an African thing. Reading and writing is an African thing. All right, let's continue. Now, really quick, the hierarchy before we get to the top five, because I got my top five, Grand Viziers in the second, but we got to deal with the process, right? The hierarchy, I'm excited about this. The priestly order, of course, we talked the high priest, him Necher Tepi, him Necher in Necher, that is the high priest. For example, the high priest of Amun. So of course, the pre-dynastic period and up until the first golden age, the guy was Osiris, right? Then towards the Middle Kingdom on out, it became Amun and Amun Ra, right? So the high priest, that was the person that everybody listened to and paid attention to, even at times, even the Insubiti, even the king himself. You had chief priests, overseers, of the priests. It's Niger on him, Necher Tepi. And of course, we have the map over here. It wasn't just the Ibit Waset. It was many other temples in and around Kemet that had a similar structure, but the Grand Vizier was the guy that built these things. All right, we're about to talk about it. Now, the Shem priest, the lecture priest, the Hariheb, ordinary priest, the wild priest. Which priest would you like to be? That's the question. Which priest would you like to be out of all these? All right, put it in the comment. All right, let's continue. Now, of course, we have priestesses, women who also served as priestesses, though they were less common. According to some tradition, they were less common, but priestesses often served as goddesses or participated in musical, dance, and rituals, right? There were some major priestesses. Also, let me know if you want me to discuss it. Let me know if you want me to engage in that conversation, right? Let me know. Okay. Now, what is the Grand Vizier? What is the Grand Vizier? Now, the Grand Vizier is a high-ranking official and chief minister to the Isbiti, or the king of Egypt, right? The word vizier is, in other words, in Kemet, is Chijati, or Jati, or Jat. The small little word means that they are the grand architect of that era. Okay, they were the grand master. They had high priests, but when it was time to build things, when it was time to put these temples and these monuments in place, they had to talk to them. They had to talk to the grand vizier, the grand architect, right? And this is the vizier in Meta Nature. Okay, we have the half circle there, which means he is the Lord over something. And the small little bird right here, he is a small bird. Okay, he's important, but he's a small bird. And that one line basically, he's the Lord over a group of people. But whenever, or a small group of people. But if you see, like King Tut, you see that same circular thing, like the cap, and it has 3 or 4 lines there, that means he is the Lord over all the people. And that was the issue. That was the issue. Okay, we're going to talk about that issue. There was some concerns between the vizier, the Chijati, and the king of Egypt. All right. Now, who are my top 5 grand viziers of Kemet? These were my top 5. Okay. Brother Rashad, shout out to Big Brother Rashad. He asked me were they top 5 in numerical order or in historical order. Okay, I'm gonna have to do the being a history person, I have to put them in some kind of chronological order. All right, but here's my top 5. All right, let me know once you do the homework. You let me know your top 5. Okay, let's go. Of course, the Grand Tijati or Grand Vizier Imhotep. He's the architect. He was a physician, conducted healing procedures in the Per Ankh or the House of Light. He was a medical doctor. and he was the high priest and Grand Vizier during the um, early period. Okay, next one. Now, this is the thing. Remember, I told you that the Tajati was the small bird, right? With a small bird with little hat, with little circle, and the line. And then the king of Egypt was the king of the north and south. The question is, I think one of the brothers, brother H. Rap Brown's ghost, shout out to him, he subscribed. He asked the question: was there political conflict between the priest of Egypt and the king of Egypt? Now I'm interested. I want to know because both had held significant power and influence. We know that there was some the kings of Egypt that were at one time military generals, but to see some issues between the priest and the king, we may have to talk about that. All right. Let me know if we want to get into that discussion. Okay. But that's interesting. Okay. Now, so we have Imhotep, and then the next person is the Grand Tijati Hapuseneb. Hapuseneb. He lived in the 15th century before Common Era, the 18th dynasty. He served Queen Hatshepsut. He was the guy that built a lot of the buildings um, during Hatshepsut's reign. So he was the person that designed that mortuary temple and those great monuments in that area. He held two roles, okay, vizier and high priest, and there's a rare combination to be an administrative power and religious power at the same time. But he did it, okay? And he played a significant role in promoting Hatshepsut's reign and oversaw her ambitious architectural projects, including the construction of her mortuary temple, Der el Bahari. Der el Bahari. And there it is, okay? Um, it has a more flat base, but then it goes up just like the step pyramid, but it has pylons and designs all on the inside of it, worth looking into, right? But he designed this. He put this together and set the people to work. So that's one of them. So we have Imhotep and we have Hapuseneb, right? Hapuseneb. Next person, Grand Vizier Nakhtpaaten. I think this guy here is kind of guilty by association. All right. He he became Grand Vizier during the time where, during the 18th dynasty, 14th century 18th dynasty, he served King Akhenaten or Amenhotep IV. You know how that went. A lot of people did not like Akhenaten towards that time, but he was the person, all right? And he served during the Amarna period, a time during radical religious reform. Of course, Akhenaten, he was the one that really introduced or brought monotheism into the forefront in Kemet. All right. So he was the Grand Vizier during that time. He helped implement Akhenaten's vision of centralized worship around Aten, constructing administrative reforms in the new capital, Akhenaten, or the modern Amarna. So he designed a new capital. So they moved the seat of power in Waset or Thebes to Amarna, and that has not been done. That has not been done in Kemet. And so that was a major no-no. Okay, going from the seat of power in Thebes to this random place in Amarna didn't go well, right? So we have Imhotep, uh, Hapuseneb, and Nakhtpaaten. Now, do you think this change was necessary though? Do you think the move was necessary, or you think they should have been more diplomatic about the situation? What do you think? Let me know. All right, here you go. Two more. All right, Grand Vizier Pasir. Grand Vizier Pasir. He lived in the 13th century before Common Era in the 19th dynasty. He served King Seti and Ramses II. Okay, he oversaw significant construction projects during Ramses II, ambitious building campaigns, including the temples of Abu Simbel and Ramses. Okay, Bashir held both administrative and religious roles, reflecting the strong ties between the state and temple administration. So he he designed the construction projects. He designed the construction projects, but do you think he was the actual final grand architect that finalized the work in Abu Simbel? Remember, he served King Seti the First and Ramses II, right? Now, it was Grand Vizier Ini. I gotta find my little paper. Grand Vizier Ini or Hoi in historical records. He lived during the 13th century before Common Era in the 19th dynasty. He served Ramses II, also known as Hoi or Hui in historical record. He was an ancient Egyptian architect who is traditionally credited with designing and finalizing the monumental Abu Simbel, like one of my favorite monuments I want to check out. When me and Queen Cam actually go, we want to see this. Abu Simbel and the Temple of Nefertari. Nefertari, for those who don't know, is Ramses II, his wife. That was his boo thing. So he built a building for her next to his, right? So check it out. Like Abu Simbel, man, it was for Ramses, but it was a massive project, and Abu Simbel was oriented so that twice a year, on February 22nd and October 22nd, the sunlight penetrates the building to illuminate the statues inside. And we mentioned that they knew astronomy, they knew mathematics. These Black people knew how to do things, and they did it so well and so perfect that it lined up with the seasons of the year, the stars, as well as the sun. Okay, so this happens twice a year. I don't know because of I think because it moved from its original site in 1960. I don't know if it still is exact, but I like to believe that the sun still shines through there twice a year. Um, but now, when he built this building, when he built this monument, okay, Big Brother, I'm a shout out to Big Brother Mo. He's been asking, but I wonder, was this a flex? Was it a flex? By building Abu Simbel right here at the southern border between Kush and Kemet, do you think that Ramses II was planting his flag and pointing at the Nubian and said, cross this line if you want to? Was it a flex? What do you think? Let me know. Was this an elaborate way to show the people who's the real king of the North and South? Right? We're gonna get into the Nile River Wars coming soon. So, but I wonder, that was it that, right? And of course, on the inside, when the sun shows on the inside of it, you have the king, you have Ptah, Amun, and Heru. So the sun is shining deep in the inside of it, and it shows those monuments, shows those things. And of course, the temple of for Nefertari, okay, that was dedicated to Heteru. And so it was pretty cool that he built a monument next to his, dedicated to his queen. And as you can see at the door, the guy that's by the door, he is Nubian. He is shout out to the fam in Aswan. There in the southern borders there, they are still the gatekeepers and the people that have the information in the Aswan and Nubian area. Shout out to them. All right, so this is a little bit more on the inside of the temple of Nefertari. And get this, these buildings, the Ipit Waset or the temples out there in Luxor, they weren't just built haphazardly. Each person, each Grand Vizier built for one generation to the next. It took this one, that was about less than a quarter of a mile, and over 800 feet in length. And it took them over almost up to about 200 years to make. And as you notice, each Grand Vizier had a phase. Each one built their part, and once it was done, it was handed on to the next. So it was started, to my understanding, Tutmosis the third, but Ramses the second finished at the bottom. But also notice, okay, notice that it is very similar to the body of a man. Okay, the central part, the Holy of Holies, is where the brain is, and some of these pylons and pillars represent the heart. You see the rib cage, the legs. Hmm. So these grand architects took them 200 years to design the human body in stone. All right, we may have to talk about that. That's pretty interesting though. All right, but yeah, those are my top five Grand Viziers of Kemet. What's yours? Let me know. I had Imhotep. Who else? I gotta go back. Let me go back real quick. Let me see. We had Imhotep. We had Hapuseneb. Okay. We had Nakhtpaaten. We had Passer and Any. Right. All right. So I am very excited about it. I'm very grateful about it. So what's your top five? Let me know what's your top five. But next, we got the Queens of the South, the ladies of the North and South. That is coming up next spring. Yeah, I'm excited there. We will talk about the Queens of Egypt and Ethiopia. We're going to talk about the Queens of Egypt and Ethiopia. And our next book, The First Female Pharaoh, Sebek Neferu, by Andrew Collins, The First Female Pharaoh. That's the book we're going to get into next spring, right? The link is in the description. As an Amazon affiliate, I earn from qualifying purchases at no additional cost to you. But what's next? Okay, we will answer a few more questions, okay, before our spring session. I would like to get into a Q&A. All right, the people have been asking, so we may do a Q&A. All right, so here's some more books: The Temple of Man, Sacred Science, Priests of Ancient Egypt, of course, Stolen Legacy by George G. and James, The Sacred Space, okay, and The Temple Ritual at Abydos, okay. We just got to talk about who were the most powerful Grand Viziers, in my opinion, in ancient Egypt. All right, I will talk to you later.